with the weapons they have, there's still something that they can attack versus the cover twos of the world, the cover fours of the world, the light boxes and the heavy coverage looks.
Yeah.
And especially when we get down the stretch and we're here. I said this yesterday. I feel like, occasionally you go somewhere nice and there's a telescope in your hotel room and you don't know how to use it. You're kind of like this. And then all of a sudden, boom, it gets clear and you're like, oh, I got it. We're like one turn away then from knowing everything.
That's great.
This weekend.
Yes.
But it got a lot clearer yesterday.
Yeah, Green Bay feels like this is what we are. I think most teams in the league have to play a certain way to win. Maybe Kansas City doesn't. I want to talk about San Francisco. So my question was, every quarterback looks a lot better with a lead and a great defense. Yesterday, the Niners' defense wasn't good. Robbie Gould missed an easy one. And it was Brock had to make some plays now.
Yeah.
My takeaway was all those years starting in college, I saw it with Kenny Pickett. He's capable.
Yeah. That ended up being a real good game.
That was great.
And, we laugh and try to figure things out in the green room on the weekend. And sometimes the more you try to figure them out, the more confused you can get. We saw New Orleans play Philadelphia yesterday, and in that case, the absence of Jalen Hurts and what he does for their running game, and then all of a sudden Gardner Minshew's got to play more of a conventional role. And I know New Orleans knows how to defend him. We played him in Jacksonville. They were going to keep him in the pocket and force him to make plays from the pocket. But here's Purdy yesterday, in a spot where there's some adversity.
Yes. That defense just didn't play well.
Yeah, and credit the Raiders and credit I'm drawing a blank on the quarterback's name.
Jared Stidham.
Yeah, Stidham, who was Auburn, transferred from Baylor, and drafted by New England. We've played 65. Our league has started 65 different quarterbacks this season.
Crazy.
It's a record. That's more than 2 per team. And so, like, if you're a father that's looking at the schedule saying, I'm gonna take my son to see Arizona versus Atlanta.
You have no idea.
At the start of the season. And then all of a sudden you can't pick the names out of a lineup.
Right.
One team's on their fourth quarterback, the other on their second. But both those guys played well. And I think, and I said this for the last month, and I don't think, there's that hesitation. Can Purdy do this? I think San Francisco's the team to beat in this tournament.
In the whole tournament?
The whole thing.
Wow.
And I do. Because, look, they had a moment defensively yesterday. They'll bounce back off of that. But if you use the analytics of defense, scoring, run game, and you factored in some of these things, and I think, look, Debo has been kind of quiet, and I just feel like they're a team that's won, 9 in a row now?
Yeah.
We're going to see a good game tonight. That's really going to tell us a little bit more about the AFC.
So I want to talk about that. So it's Bengals, Bills tonight. Go either way. It's like a 1.5 point. I think Cincinnati at home, a little more comfortable. I've said this. I feel like I love boxing. I like that combative stuff. I've always said Buffalo's Tyson. Doesn't always have a great jab. I don't love their O-line. They bail on the run game. They're too dependent on the home run. Josh Allen, Tyson, too dependent on the left. Whereas I feel with Cincinnati, I get the jab, I get some power, I get the movement. They're more complete situationally. You don't know what they're going to do. They can run, they can pass, they tight ends, Joe can move. When you look at this, what are you concerned at all? Because I find myself with Buffalo pushing back on myself. Colin, don't fall in love with their home runs. Don't look at that O-line. The run game, they bail. Or you're in this game forever. Would you just rather have the home runs and deal with it?
It's a great question. That's why tonight's a great game. And honestly, we could flip coins here and try to figure out who's going to win this game. They're two different type teams playing. That's the one thing.
Yes.
And so, do you Do you want to feel like you know a little bit more what you're getting? Or, I mean, certainly you don't want the boxer who's biting someone's ear off, and then all of a sudden you're leaving in the first round.
Right.
I like Buffalo tonight.
How come?
I like Buffalo. I think the X factor is their quarterback, and I think Diggs, and I just think they're a little too much in a big spot this season, and it was a big spot when they played the Rams. Obviously, it doesn't look that way now.
Right.
Thursday night, they have a big win in another big spot against the Chiefs. This is kind of, I think, their third big spot when you look. I mean, they've won a lot of games, but the Chief game was a big one. The opening game of the season on the road against the Rams, that was a big win.
They stubbed their toe when you don't expect it.
Yeah. I feel like Sean will have his guys ready, McDermott, and I give the edge to him. I think he's done a great job. They're going to be right there in the end. This team will be playing in the AFC Championship game. Yeah. Cincinnati may very well be as well. Mm-hmm. I kind of see Kansas City there, but certainly this is one of those games that'll be interesting to watch.
So there's so many different stories today. Sean Payton for our radio audience. I never thought I'd see Daniel Jones in the playoffs. But it's interesting what Daboll's done with him, and nobody thinks he's Josh Allen. But Daboll has done a little bit of the same.
Yeah.
I'm going to get you out of the turnover business, and I'm going to let you run more.
Yeah, there's some design plays. His touchdown yesterday
was designed.
Listen, they stole it from us. We ran that against Buffalo or against the Jets with Taysom Hill. I'm kidding when I say that, but if you want to find quarterback runs and you don't want to look at college tape, there's 4 or 5 teams that we're going to pull the tape out and look for ideas. We're going to look at Baltimore. We're going to look at Buffalo. We're going to look at New Orleans. They're packaged with we're going to find teams, Chicago now. So as soon as teams invest in that business, there's access to get new ideas and tape. And I think Brian's done a great job there. I mean, and it's funny. Yesterday I said this. We say the season's a marathon. We've seen a handful of teams just kind of hang in there with their stride. All right, may not be the fast stride, and,
Right.
and we're not necessarily picking them to win, place, or show. But then we've seen a handful of those teams that all of a sudden we thought, we'd see you back here. And what happened to the Jets and what happened to the Dolphins? A few of these teams that just faded down the stretch. It's a long year, and it's interesting. And here New England is, in a position. It's amazing the length of the season. You break it into quarters, and if you're not paying attention or if you're not careful as a team, you can lose 4 games
like that. Yeah, that's why finding your identity, figuring out what you're not and what you are.
Are you obviously health plays a big part of this.
Sure.
But are you ascending to some degree? Are you getting better? And then are you midstream adjusting? And that gets to like, hey, this is we wanted to do this in training camp, but we're better at this. Let's this is what we need to do now.
So I want to talk about health. A team that it took me a while to wrap my arms around them, but I'm going to defend them, and I think they're going to get in, is Miami. They were missing, I think, 7 starters yesterday. And they're in an interesting spot. Football is largely, Breeze an exception, a big man's game.
Yeah.
Big man's game. Most of your top 20 quarterbacks ever, 6'3" and up. Most. Or they're thick. They're big men.
Yep.
Tua's not. Teddy's not.
Yep.
And both get hurt. And this system in Miami, like the Niners, is a distribution system. Kirk Cousins would be effective. Brady would be effective. Carr would. It's not a playmaking offense. That's not Kyle.
Yeah.
Kyle doesn't want you out there.
Well, let's do this. Let's not draft small players in the first 15 picks of the draft anymore. In the first round, let's not get away from prototype. And I talked with Bill Parcells about this, Ron Wolf, and those early picks have to be prototype players.
Big, 6'4", 225.
Prototype the way we've designed it for each position, whatever the position requirement is. Now, let's say we're looking at a corner, and our requirement for prototype at that position is 5'11". and we're going to take this player in the first 6 or 7 picks, and he's off of that. You'd say, oh, how much? He's 5'10" or he's 5'9". There's a point at which you turn and say, all right,